All right, so can you please just state your first name, your age, and the city you reside in?
My name is Dominique, I'm 39 and I live in Phoenix.
Okay. Can you tell us how many children you have, their ages, or if you're currently pregnant?
I have one child, a daughter. Her name is Imara and she's 2 years old.
Okay. What is rewarding about being a mother?
I think that just watching her grow and develop and be herself and know that you're shepherding that. I don't want her to be anyone other than who she is, and we get a chance to form that and help her discover who she is. And it's so fun to see the person she naturally is. Like, you think that it takes time to develop a personality when kids can be born with it if you're paying attention, you know. And motherhood, parenthood is a lot of work, but I don't think people talk enough about how fun it is. Like, I have a really fun kid that does things specifically to make us laugh and to make us smile. And it's cool to see the parts of me that are in her, the parts of her father that are in her, and the things that are uniquely her that she brings to the table, that she brings to the family. When I was single, I still saw myself as a part of a family. When I was just my husband and I, we were a family. And now she's there and we're a family that's grown and developed into something even more unique because of her.
What would you say, what challenges do you face as a mother?
Oh, the biggest challenges are my insecurities that I bring to the table. The things that I've placed on myself that I'm still working through that I don't want to put on her. And it takes a lot of vulnerability and self-reflection to even see that. And I see it in examples in my life. Like this past Easter, my church, you know, we're all on lockdown. Nobody can do anything. We can't do the Easter egg hunt. And my church had reached out to us and all the parents. Was like, you know, we can stop by your house and do a surprise. And I forgot about it and I didn't sign up. And then I saw that I'd missed the deadline and I was like, well, I don't want to say anything to them. I don't want to be like a burden to them. They probably don't even really want to do this. And so I didn't sign her up. And then Mumsy, she reached out to me, one of the people on the team, and was like, hey, I saw you didn't sign up and it's not too late. We love to do the surprise for Imara. And I almost didn't respond because in my head I'm still thinking, oh, we're all on lockdown. They have their own families. I know that they probably have a million other things to do. I don't want to be a burden to them. And then I didn't text her back. And then later on, like as I was praying, I was like, Lord, why do I still see myself as a burden to people? And I'm placing that on my child. These people love her. So I texted Mumsy back and was like, yes, we would love that. And they came and they spread Easter eggs in our front lawn while we watched from the window, and then we got her dressed and she went out and did an Easter egg hunt, and they were so happy to do it. They were so excited to see her. And I was like, Lord, I was gonna miss this, she was gonna miss this, because I'm placing that fear of being a burden onto her. I'm not a burden, regardless of how I was raised or made to believe that I was. I have a right to be here and to have fun things and do things and allow people to do things for me. And she is deserving of that too. So just those little things that I have to catch myself on, because we always want to be better than our parents, than what we had. And our parents will even tell us that. My mom and dad will be like, we know we made some mistakes. We tried to be better than our parents. That's what we want for you all. And it's knowing that they did the best that they could, but that also doesn't mean that they didn't make mistakes, that some of their behavior wasn't toxic, and that I'm able to evaluate that and say, not in my family, not with my child.
How was your pregnancy experience? For example, was it planned? What was your outlook on it, your overall outlook? Did you have any complications, support, things like that?
Oh, goodness. It was a very difficult pregnancy, and it was planned. And what I love about our pregnancy story is my husband and I had actually decided to not have children. We just felt like we didn't need a child to be a family, and we also actually just planned on being foster parents. So I felt like that was a responsible way to still be a parent while also like not naturally having our own kids, because that's a form of family too. There's no denying that that is definitely something needed. That's something we want to do in the future when our daughter's a little older. But that was it. Like, we're not having our own kids. We're gonna be foster parents, and that's it. And I felt like, for me personally, that I'd made that decision not based out of fear, but out of, I thought that I had made that decision not based out of fear, but it was. I had a difficult childhood. I know how hard it can be to be a Black person in this country. I know the struggles that I had, and it didn't feel responsible to bring a person into that. I've worked with children all my life. My life is dedicated to the care and well-being of children, and I see how they're not valued. I see how they're not seen as their own people, and I didn't want to bring anybody into that. But the church that I go to out here, every year they have a talent show. They couldn't have it this year, so they had a talent show, and it was my first year being at the church because we had moved from Chicago, and I was going to teach a dance class. So I went to the talent show. I was going to go anyway. I went to the talent show. I performed with a friend to like highlight my dance ability and introduce them to the idea that I'll be a dance teacher and this will be the program that we do. And I sat and watched all the children perform, and how they were loved and supported and just really poured into. And all these kids were just so fully confident in themselves because they had this beautiful community that believed in them. That it didn't matter what you did, it was amazing because you are amazing. You know, like, not because of who your parents are, but because of who you are. And I saw that and I was blown away. And on the drive home, I turned to my husband and I was like maybe we can have a child. Maybe we can do this. And he said, I was thinking the same thing.
So would you say that's something that sparked?
That did.
You guys wanting to have?
That was it. That sparked it. That showed me that I'm no person that values kids. There are people out there like that, and I shouldn't continue to allow fear to get in my way. No one has to have kids. No one has to have kids. But for me, that showed me my fears. And then we began to pray about that. And then we were like, you know what? Let's do it. Like, let's do it. And some of it was also fear that maybe we couldn't be good parents, we couldn't be adequate parents. And then I realized, and people would talk to me about these things, and I would always encourage them. I'm like, let me encourage myself the way I encourage other people. The fact that you're having these thoughts shows that you do want to be a good parent, and you are aware. We don't have to be what we had. We can be more, we can be better, we can learn from that and flip it. So that's what we began praying about, and that's what we decided to do. And then we just started trying to have a baby, and some good times trying. Yeah. And I thought it would take longer, but it didn't. It didn't take long. Next thing I knew, I was pregnant, and we were very excited, really happy, and I became sick almost right away. It was very hard, very difficult. I was vomiting constantly. I lost weight rapidly, lost some of my hair. This was during the pregnancy. During the pregnancy was really rough. My husband was very supportive. My initial healthcare provider was not she wasn't. I'm not gonna say necessarily.
Or in Chicago?
This how it happened in Phoenix.
Okay.
So this happened in Phoenix. We got married in Chicago. After a year of marriage, we moved to Phoenix. And after we had been here, I think I was pregnant our second anniversary. Yeah, so it all happened here in Phoenix. And I had to find my own OBGYN. I'm looking online. I found a place that was near us. And I started going there. And initially they have you see a nurse practitioner. So I was seeing her, and I was just really struggling. And I would tell her about how hard everything was, and she just kept telling me to be strong, you just gotta be strong, you just gotta be strong. And I'm like, I weigh 99 pounds. I kept thinking that she knew something, that you're the professional, that maybe tomorrow, you keep telling me that it'll be fine, but it's not, it just keeps getting worse. And then I I was missing so much work and my job understood, and eventually I needed a doctor's note. Like I could not work anymore. My husband literally had to carry me into the doctor's office. And I asked her, because I was going to the doctor's office, it seemed like every week. I'd already been hospitalized. It was just a struggle, and I didn't understand why it was so hard for me. And I told her, I said, I can't work. I'm really struggling. I don't know why this is so hard. Please can you give me a doctor's note so I can be excused from work? And she said, don't you know how expensive kids are? You need to keep working. What's gonna happen if you lose your job? I'll give you a doctor's note for 1 week, but you need to go back to work. What are you even thinking? And who I usually am would have pushed back. But I didn't have any fight in me. And I just kept thinking, maybe she knows something, maybe in a week. And I was also ashamed that she would look at me and see poverty, because that's what this was. You just made a determinant. You just determined by looking at me that I couldn't afford to take time off work, that we couldn't afford to have a child unless I was working. I filled out a whole questionnaire about who I am. You know I have if you had looked, you would know I had a good government job. I have a master's. My husband has a good job at GCU. He has his master's. I can afford to take time off work, and guess what? I would have been paid. But instead you looked at me and decided to give us financial advice that we didn't need, when I couldn't even walk. So we left. And I did almost lose my job because I didn't have an adequate doctor's note. And the day my job told me that, I called the office crying. And I talked to a front desk woman and I said, I don't know why this is so hard. I don't know why I couldn't get a doctor's note. I don't know what more I need to do. I don't know how much more suffering you all need to see for you to understand that I'm struggling. And she said, don't worry about it, please come in. I'll have you see someone else, someone that will listen. And I went in, I saw another person. I had to go to the hospital because my health was so poor. I hadn't been receiving adequate care. And he wrote me a doctor's note, and I was finally diagnosed with hyperemesis, hypothalamus HG. And it literally, it's when you're pretty violently ill throughout your pregnancy. And we just call it HG. And he said I should have been diagnosed with it, that the minute I talked to her about my problems, she should have referred me to a doctor. I should not have seen her anymore because she was just a nurse practitioner. That I needed to see a doctor. He wrote me a doctor's note that excused all my past absences, future absences. Like I said, I went to the hospital right away. And I was there for a couple of days. And I finally had my diagnosis, and I knew that this was something real, that this wasn't something I could strong black woman my way out of, the way people always make it seem like we're supposed to. And it was just a relief, because I felt like I'd be in that doctor's office and everybody around me is just happy and pregnant, and I'm just sitting there crying and ill and still putting on my dresses, putting my hair in a head wrap, you know, making sure that I am presentable, because I know that can make a difference in how I'm treated because I'm a black woman. And everything that I did, it still didn't matter. I was still treated that way. I was still not listened to. My degrees didn't matter. My professional job didn't matter. The care that I took in myself, my husband coming with me, every appointment didn't matter. And after that, I stopped seeing her, clearly. Everybody else was amazing, really supportive. Even being diagnosed different medications that ultimately didn't help, but things eased up and I was eventually able to go back to work. And if I needed to not go to work, then that was fine. I mean, I'm thinking about all the different medicines that they gave me to try to help with with all the nausea and the vomiting. And I even had to take a medicine that went up my butt, and it didn't work. I'm taking butt medicine, and I'm still sick. That's the devil.
That's the last straw.
No, I think I'll just lay in the bed and be sick. Everything y'all giving me ain't working. This it, and then, no, I'm good. But even in that, like, my husband was so supportive. He kept me alive, literally. Good community that was there for me, even though I push people away. If I'm not feeling well, I don't want to be around people. I don't want you to see that. I don't want you to stop by my house and drop me off anything. My hair is looking like this. I am dry. I look like a crackhead. Please don't come over. And that didn't deter people from still trying to be present and dropping off gifts and encouraging me in this.
So you would say the community aspect, or
Yeah.
the people who would drop off things?
The people that would drop off things, the people that I let in that knew, they really encouraged me. And it was another highlight that, like, I'm still a part of community, you know, and I'm not the first person to be pregnant, even though when you're in it, you can feel so alone. Like, why is all of this happening to me? Why can't I be like all the other happy pregnant people? Why can't I, you know, like, what is this? What is this? I even had somebody that I love that knew how strongly I was struggling and say, this is why I always get rid of my pregnancies. Is it too late for you? It is, and that's not helpful. Like, you could keep that advice. like for real, no. Cause she was worth it. I knew that all the struggling, all the pain, like, I would have dreams about her and I wouldn't see her, but she would be making us laugh. You know, like, we did a recording of her heartbeat. So anytime it was really hard, I would listen to that and hear how, like, she is literally taking everything. And that's what parenting is. Like, when you realize the minute you have the intention to be a parent, it starts. The minute you're pregnant, it starts. And it was rough for me, but it was life-giving for her. I kept thinking, like, am I gonna survive this? I did, and she did too. You know, like, maybe everything, she needed everything that she was taking out of me to survive. And whatever I needed to give her so that she can be the strongest little person she could be was fine, because it was worth it.
Where did you, or do you, get advice about or information about pregnancy, childbirth, parenting? Do you think this information is useful and relevant, or was it useful and relevant?
Yeah, I got good advice from one of my friends, Dana, because people always have advice, and you hope that people are well-intentioned, and some people are, some people actually aren't, and you can sift through that and see. Some people only see things through their lens, and it may not vibe with who you are and what you see for your child and your future and your family, but it's like, all right, I know that that's how you do things. My kid ain't gonna be hanging out with you. Sometimes it can be like that. But like I was saying, Dana, because people are always, your birth story is your birth story. And so there's all these people saying, don't get an epidural, like, do it naturally. It's what we were meant to do, it's what we were born to do. Like, just do it. I'm like, I'm about to die in this pregnancy. All y'all trying to tell me that I can't get an epidural, I can't take any medication. Like, I'm reading all the things, and I get why you guys are saying that, but let me make my own decisions, and don't make it seem as if I'm making selfish decisions when I need to survive this too. And then Dana said, you can listen to that, but let me tell you, when I got an epidural, that is actually what relaxed my body enough to even give birth. Because before then, it just wasn't happening. And I'm like, thank you. Like, I wanted to get an epidural, but people always make it seem as if you're not strong enough to, like, they say that you're strong enough to not be able to have it because you used to not be able to do that. I'm like, and they used to bite on rags. Like, does that mean I need to bite on a rag? I'm all about progress. That epidural was the progress that God put on this earth specifically for me. And I come from a really big family. I have 11 siblings. Almost every one of them has kids, so they all had their advice. They were all excited and surprised that I was having a child because they kind of knew my views. And I listened to a lot of the things that they said. I'm a part of a couple of Facebook groups, conscious parenting for the culture, where we're all about gentle parenting and child-led parenting and making sure that we're raising children that know who they are, that know that they're valued and respected, and like practices like that to make sure that we're not just saying it, but actually living it and doing it at our household. So people post a lot of different scenarios, or when they're wondering if they're being conscious parents, and then people comment, and I don't typically comment. I just do a lot of looking and learning, and even like my training as a social worker, my training as a early childhood development teacher, all of that makes me, I feel like, a more informed parent than if I'd had her at 19. You know, like me being, how old was I when I had her? 37, and having her is a very different experience than if I had been 19 and had her, because I knew who I was at 19, and yeah, it's definitely better at 37 for me. Not that if I had had a child at 19, God would have definitely worked that out. But where I am now, yeah, it's definitely better for me being a parent now.
So it sounds like a lot of it has come from like you're relying on your own knowledge, your own experiences, and support from friends or family and groups. Mm-hmm. It's interesting. I didn't hear you mention anything about like the doctor's office or, you know, clinics or.
No, you know what? I want to say that at the doctor's office that I was going to, that I got the most support, not from the doctors, but the receptionist, the phlebotomist. The people that, when I came in the office and I wasn't crying and I wasn't vomiting, clapped for me. I didn't realize that they had been paying attention to my struggle as much until it lessened, and they were like, "We're so happy for you, and we're so happy that you aren't going to that person anymore." Because they knew. It wasn't their place to say anything. And it was the Black receptionist that ultimately had my back and helped me out and found a doctor for me to talk to that would listen. So yeah.
What type of things do you do to make sure that you're healthy? So what type of things do you do to make sure you're healthy? So for yourself and for your child and your family? And also, what sort of things make it difficult for you to achieve good health?
Oh man.
So what type of things do you do, just in general, to make sure you're healthy? Whatever that looks like for you, whatever healthy looks like for you.
I love to read. I always try to make sure that I have time to read. That has always been my escape since I was a child. I have a book with me now. I was like, oh, maybe there'll be time for me to read this. Making sure that I have time to talk to like friends, that's important. I don't feel though as if I've been as conscious about making sure that I'm taking care of myself since I've been a mother. Just because it's hard. It's just hard in my schedule. I work nights, so I go to work. My schedule is from 8:30 p.m. to 7 a.m. So I go to work, I come home, my husband goes to work, and then I'm with Imar during the day. And a lot of the times my rest would be when she takes a nap. So we take a nap together, and maybe I'll be able to get another hour or two of sleep before I go to work. So I feel like I was always fatigued. I was a leader at my church, and that came with different responsibilities. I was leading, my husband and I with another couple were leading a small group that was pretty large. They were meeting at our house every Thursday. I would cook large meals every Thursday and making sure, checking in with all the people there, making sure they're fine. But not necessarily always feeling as if people were checking in on me to make sure I'm fine, because I always seem like I'm fine. you know, like, I'm good, I'm good, I'm good. And I had to learn how to say when I'm not. Because it's hard, because you always, like, even if you're not good, there are elements of what I am good. Like, our bills are paid, my child is healthy, I have food to eat. I always go back to, we have everything we need. Who am I to say that I'm struggling, even though I know that I have PTSD? So that's something that I'm always aware of, and every time I feel like that's under control, something will pop up and I'll be like, you're trying to derail me. And instead of seeing it as a call for me to take care of myself and take care of my mental health, I see it as, what are you trying to do? Like, I don't need you showing up. I'm fine, I'm good. I told you we have food in the fridge, we have our bills paid, like all these things that are basic, but if you don't grow up with those basic things, they're not so basic. And I need to go beyond survival mode. And I want to not just survive, like, what does thriving look like for me? What does that look like for me as a mom, as a wife, and as a person? Because I was who I was before I was a wife and a mom, and who I am matters, and it will always matter. And I want to make sure of that, like, who I am matters, aside from Imara, aside from my husband, and I need to make sure that I'm feeding into that too. So making sure that I have time to dance, that I sing loudly, that I can hang out with my friends, that I can talk to my mom. And I think about that, how our relationship has changed and grown, and I'm like, I'm 39 and I still need to talk to my mom. Mm-hmm. And I'm assuming Imara will one day be 39, God willing, and she'll want to talk to me. And thinking about the beauty of that.
What type of support, resources, or events would you like to see in your area? I
guess maybe more community events, and that's something that I would want to work on. When we first moved into the house in the neighborhood that we're in, I was pregnant and I was still sick and struggling, so I couldn't really get to know people the way that I typically do in the neighborhoods that I live in. And then I had her, and I was like immersed in that and all this other stuff. And then once I felt like, all right, cool, like getting to know our neighbors, gonna get started, like we'll have a neighborhood Easter egg hunt. And then coronavirus came, and I'm like, I don't want to never see y'all again until this is over. But even in that, even with coronavirus, we're still like in community in our neighborhood. Our neighbors next door, they gave me coronavirus. They sent us over some soup the other day. Another neighbor, their son had a birthday party that we wasn't gonna go to. Anyway, but they sent over some treats for Imara since she couldn't come. I was looking like, we gonna eat these? Because none of y'all have masks on. But okay, but thank you. You know, another one of our neighbors, their restaurant had to shut down, so people in the neighborhood have been buying plates from them. They sell plates, so just more community engagement. It's just something that I would like to see more of, and I know that I can have a hand in that, because I'm about community development and organization too. That's from the work that I did in Chicago as well.
So what are some of the things that are taboo in pregnancy, birth, and parenting? So what are people, so doctors, media, community, other parents, not discussing that you feel needs to be discussed?
Oh, man, I feel like I'm in a pretty transparent community. So, like, especially my online community, they'll bring up things that I'll be like, yes, my sex drive is gone. And I was looking forward to it being back, because I missed it. But after having her, and it just, oh man, I feel like that should be talked about more and normalized too, because people make it seem like it's a personal problem. But it's not just a personal problem. It affects a lot of women. And our husbands need to know, our partners need to know that it's not, it literally is not you. It's me. It's what my body has gone through. even breastfeeding can lower your libido. So I need people to know that too, you know, or even breastfeeding, and like breastfeeding is great, it's beautiful, but sometimes it's like you can get touched out. Like your kid is always touching you, always on you, and it's just like, get off me, get off me, get off me, but you can't say that. And you feel like it's bad that you think that, but you're not the only one thinking that. And we need to talk about that. It doesn't make you a bad mother. It doesn't make you less loving, less caring for you to be touched out. It's a real thing that women go through. And let's talk about it so that you can see that it's normal and that it's okay. You know, like when I'm talking to my husband and he's like, oh, it just feels like we're just not having sex and this and this. I was like, I know, and I wish that I could be there. But I'm telling you, this is normal. Talk to other guys about this, you know, like let the men talk about this too. It's one thing for me to tell you that it's normal. Have men be like, hey dog, my wife wasn't trying to get it in either. So that they can have their own community and see that like this is normal. It doesn't mean I don't love you any less. It doesn't mean that you are not sexually desirable. It's just where I am, and being grateful that you're not trying to push, you know? Because that's a thing that happens, you know, like, thank you that I'm with somebody that listens to me and that wants me to be ready and isn't just like, well, I know you don't want it, but I do, so come on. Because that's a real thing too, and that's something that needs to be talked about.
So, in the United States, Black and Native American women have some of the worst maternal and infant health outcomes. For example, the number of women who die in childbirth, infant deaths, etc. Why do you think that is? And how does that make you feel?
I feel like that was almost me, because they don't listen. They come in with their own biases, their own preconceived notions about who we are and our pain levels and what we can handle, and they take that and run with it. And we are left flapping in the wind, unsupported, uncared for, because of their ignorant assumptions that are continuously perpetrated, that they don't see until you point it out. And even after you point it out, they still don't see it because it couldn't possibly be me. We don't want to have any more kids. I don't want to go through that again. I don't want my husband to go through that again, because you don't go through it alone if you're with a partner. He struggled. He felt like there wasn't anything he could do. He didn't know how to advocate for me. We were both just trusting the professionals who didn't have our best interests at heart. And you walk through life and live life knowing that the decisions people make about you could be led by racism, could be led by sexism, could be led by any number of things that have to do with their small hearts and nothing to do with you. And then people tell you that you shouldn't think like that, and then you have to tell them it's a privilege to not have to think like that because of what my life has been. And I always tell people, I'm talking about my life. You talking about theories, I'm talking about my life. And even then, there are people that won't listen because it's not their experience. We have facts about this, and there will still be people to dispute that. White women die in childbirth too. How about nobody should die in childbirth? If that's how you want to counter that, shouldn't it be fixed for everyone? I would love to live life trusting that people have my best interests at heart, but I know that that's not real. It's not my reality. It's not the reality for so many people. And it's like, what can we do to be on the solution side? You know, like, we know that this is a problem. What are we doing to solve it? Part of what I try to do is share my story. And for a while I didn't, because I was embarrassed that I feel like I've tried so hard to be the right type of Black person. That being raised under respectability politics, the way that we were, that it doesn't matter. Why do I have to be exceptional for you to see me as a person? Why do I have to not fit the negative stereotypes for you to see me for who I am? Why did I feel like I couldn't laugh loudly? Because that was a negative trait. There goes that Black woman being loud. I couldn't have my joy on display because of what other people would think. Not because of who I am as a person, but because of the smallness of their minds about what they think. I want to live my life in such a way that I can be fully me, sharing my life in an open invitation to others to share theirs so that they can be fully who they are, so we can all walk in authenticity, so that it doesn't matter what type of Black person you are, what type of brown person you are, that you have value. We are all made in God's image. There's so much beauty in that. There's no lesser part to that. There's nothing less about that. Every ethnicity, every community plays a part in who God is. And all of it should be elevated. But so much of this society elevates one portion, elevates whiteness, upholds the characteristics of that as the ideal. And it's all beautiful. Not just that, but all of it. Who I am, every person. I want that for my daughter. I want her to know that and to see that. I don't want her to even limit what beauty is to just Black people or to just her parents' heterosexual marriage. You know, every person is valid in who they are, in whatever package that they know that they are.